I'm assuming the superintendent is gonna guide us through the workshop. So Javier, whenever you're ready, go ahead and get us started.
And I'm going to ask Assistant Superintendent Nally to introduce the workshop and the presenter.
Excellent, thank you.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to briefly introduce you to Meg. Meg, if you want to wait, I suppose it's the person you don't see every other week. So Meg is one of our librarians, and she and Eva are the teacher leader librarians. They coordinate the librarian team across the district. And they came to me, gosh, Meg, it was probably last winter or so, maybe it was last fall, to suggest that we make some adjustments to our policies. So this was really the work of the teachers and the educators, our librarians, coming together, identifying an opportunity and taking the initiative to move it forward. So they did some amazing work, came to curriculum committee. I think we had a couple meetings where they presented what they were wanting to adjust, why they wanted to do it. We had some great discussion in committee, and ultimately coming out of there made some edits and adjustments. And this evening, Meg is here to step us through what we're proposing gets changed in the policy, why, and sort of what the implication of that would be. So thrilled to introduce Meg, who's here with us this evening.
Hi, Malia. Hi, everybody. And I just want to say thank you to Malia, because we really didn't know what we were doing, and she walked us through a lot of the work that we did. I am going to share my screen and bring up, this was presented to the curriculum committee last, I don't remember when, it seems like 10 years ago, but I think it was last February, maybe.
Yeah, it was right before we went out for COVID.
And so, and many edits have been made along the way, and I tried to find copies of the original plus the edits that we're at now. And if I didn't do that perfectly, I apologize. I did the best I could. But this is going to talk you through it. It's this slideshow I presented last spring of the why and the what that we're changing. And I think in the agenda, it has IJJ first, but I'm going to start with IJNC. So this is just the objectives. I'm going to explain the rationale, go over some additions that we would like to have included in the updated policies, and then an overview of the edits that we would like to make to the existing policies. Our rationale, the past 2 years we've had quite an uptick in informal challenges to materials. So I don't know that there's ever been a time that we've had an actual formal challenge where someone has made a formal challenge and we've had to get a committee together and really look at an item. But there's been a lot of definite uptick in those informal challenges where someone just comes to the librarian and says, hey, we want you to get rid of this book. And then, you know, our first action is to have a conversation with them about the why. And it's always gone away in some way or another through that conversation and has never gotten to the formal policy. But because we've had that uptick, and because there was that proposed legislation last year, which again seems like a zillion years ago, where one of our state reps from New Gloucester came forth with wanting legislation around banning obscene materials, which was troubling to us librarians, and it never materialized. But just the fact that those things seem to be on the rise around the country. So at the same time, I attended a policy workshop, a library policy workshop with the Maine Association of School Librarians. It was an all-day workshop looking at policy and what changes should be made. And so this work, we came to Malia with all of these things circling around and looking at our current policies and realizing that there are some things in our policies that just aren't true anymore either, and so we wanted our policies to reflect what is actually happening in the district. So these changes and additions will strengthen our district's commitment to free and equitable access to information, and they're based on current best practices set forth by the American Association of School Libraries. And these edits also better align with the equity goals of the district. So the IJNC policy, which just outlines the Instructional Media Center, the revisions we would like to make include new wording around our goals and organization, which better reflect the role of the school library media specialist, and then edits around our collaboration with Portland Public Library. There was a large section that just talked about our relationship with Portland Public Library because we used to have several branches that were in our schools, and since we no longer have those and the other types of collaboration don't really exist right now, and I think it was Malia who pointed out that a lot of those things are not policy but more like practice and don't really belong in the policy anyway, so we edited out some of those. Malia, do we want to actually look at the original with the proposed edit? Should I bring it up now, or should I talk through and then we'll, or have people already looked through that?
People had access to everything you shared in board docs. I suspect not everybody has it well internalized. So I think making sure to highlight, what are the key points that were changed? I think would be great.
I'm going to go to.
And Meg, as you're opening that, I don't think we have to go kind of through all the word per se, but just what are the kind of substantive types of issues? Yeah. And they have access to all the detail.
A lot of this was wording that we just wordsmithed this to better reflect our goals as library media centers and what we do now. And so this is mostly just rewording. The way library medias are organized, like where they are, we just shortened that. Again, this is all wordsmithing. And then this whole section here is getting rid of all the language around the Portland Public Library. We do collaborate with the Portland Public Library quite a bit, but not in the ways that were outlined here. We included and changed the wording around a little bit about interlibrary loan. We still do quite a lot of interlibrary loan within the district, but we no longer do interlibrary loan outside of the district with Maine State Library or with the Portland Public Library. And then this is the lengthy addition. What I got out of that workshop that I went to and what I've seen as a MASL board member that other districts do is to add American Library Association's Bill of Rights and the interpretation on the Bill of Rights as it applies to school libraries. And our reasoning is that as challenges have had an uptick, having wording around ALA's freedom of access to information, having that wording directly in the policy. As a librarian, it feels good to have that written down in the policy to strengthen our commitment to free access to information. So I'm not going to read through it all, but it's all right there. And it's I don't think we changed the wording. I think it's directly from them. So that is IJNC. I'm sorry, I never even I don't have this in presentation mode. I already talked through that. IJJ is selection of educational materials, and the rationale for revising this, we wanted to have the wording that made it clear that library media specialists are the ones who choose the selection of the library media collection, because that was not clear in the other in the original policy. And then additional wording to speak to our district's goal of equity as it relates to collection development efforts, which we left very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. We wordsmithed that quite a bit to make it as, I think, as broad as we could was our goal there. Oh, shoot. So now my link's not working. There we go. So this is the original with edits. We moved things around just because it made more sense. This is like an overview of how we select things, and it was in the middle. So we put this at the front just because in our original read through with the curriculum committee, it made sense to all of us to just change the order. But this talks about priorities for collections. And then in definitions, it talks about the difference between educational materials and then the more specific library materials, because they're both talked about as far as who's in charge of selecting each. So there's the selection of educational materials, which falls to the superintendent and his designees in consultation with administrators and professional staff. And then library media materials, the superintendent delegates selection of those materials to the district librarians. Criteria for selection. Oh, and so this is not in red, but this is an edit, and I'm not sure what part of it is an edit, but sorry about that. Criteria for selection. The only thing we did was we took F and G and we combined them, and then the numbering should, the lettering should continue. But we combined them and wordsmithed that a little bit. And then here was another reason we wanted to revise, do some revisions. There were two separate and different challenge policies. So there was one embedded in the selection policy, and then there's a separate document, IJJ R2, which is the actual challenge policy. And Javier, I know you had said that didn't need to be voted on because it was an IJJ R2, and I don't understand the particularities of how this works. But it is our challenge policy, so I'm not sure how to proceed. I don't know if we should embed it back in here. You're muted.
No, you don't need it in the policy. You can have it in the procedure, and then we just act on it in the procedure. The board is being shown the procedure, but they do not need to vote on procedures.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, so we just deleted that because it's in its own separate document. And so the procedures for dealing with challenged material, we made it explicit that challenges can only be made by community members within the school district, because that's been an issue with other districts around the country where outside entities are challenging materials within a district. And then we changed some wording in the challenge policy to make sure that the challengers have read the material in question, and also that they are aware of our district policies. And we cleaned up some language around the challenge questions for clarity. And so very little has been changed in here, and it's exactly what I said. But, members within the school, sorry. Persons in the school and members within the school district. We just clarified that. And this is the form that people would fill out, and they have to check that they've read the material and that they've read the collection development policy. And then again, it's just some rewording. So this just goes through again the changes and our rationale. So we want to add the ALA Bill of Rights and interpretation for school libraries, and sorry, my mind's going blank. Yes, we want to add those things because it establishes our district's commitment and it ties to our library media policy. And our district's equity goal, and it gives language to back up our policies when and if challenges arise. And the edits to the IJNC more accurately reflect what's actually happening in the library media centers. And the proposed edits to IJJ clarify the role of the library media specialist. Again, has some language that speaks to our district's equity goals and helps to protect the district from challenges outside of our community. And so that is my whole presentation. And Malia, what's next?
Well, so we're in workshop. So I think Chair Rodriguez will take over and just take questions from the board only, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so board members, if we have any questions or points of discussion, we'll use the raise your hand feature on Zoom. I don't know if it's, well, I can pull up the participants list. I was going to say to bring us back to the speaker view. Do you have any questions? Ms. Morioni?
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you so much to our librarians for working on this. I completely agree that what was happening in other districts in our state was very concerning. I wouldn't necessarily have thought, okay, let's go take a look at our policies. I'm glad that you did and brought this forward to us as a concern. I think embedding the Bill of Rights based on a high standard from the Librarians Association also makes perfect sense to me. I really don't have any questions per se. I just wanted to say thank you for doing this because in the era that we are in at the moment, I could see that it could be something just brought to us and we wouldn't really have any way to sort of defend ourselves in this regard. And I appreciate ensuring that our actions around the materials in the library are aligned with our Portland Promise and our equity goals and all the hard work we're doing. It would only make sense that our students would have, make sure they have access to materials that cover all types of cultures, all types of backgrounds, all types of perspectives. So I really do appreciate all the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morioni. Ms. Pigdor?
Thank you. And yeah, thank you so much for what seems like a proactive effort to update our policy and procedures. Really appreciate the effort. And I haven't yet had the time to read these changes in detail beyond what you've presented tonight. So I look forward to doing that. But in the meantime, I'm wondering, the case that that this conversation has brought up for me was, I know earlier this year, we had some community members asking us about Dr. Seuss books being available and concern about those books reinforcing racial stereotypes. And I don't know, so I guess, I'm sorry if this is this question isn't on point, but I'm wondering if these changes get at that. or were our policies already? So how are we ensuring that the material available is not reinforcing racial stereotypes?
Yeah, Adam asked a similar question when we had when we presented last spring, and I think it's two separate conversations. There are times when people come to the librarian and say, hey, I just found this picture book in the library and it has a really offensive image in it. And those are times when, the librarian can't know every single thing that's in our library, and we certainly can't read every single thing that's in our library. So when someone comes to me with something like that, that wasn't a book that I selected for the library. So when when someone comes to me with a concern like that, I say, you're right, this shouldn't be in the library, and I take it out of the library. So this protects us when there's something that I very purposely put in the library for a sound educational reason, and someone comes in and tells me that they don't want it because of X, Y, or Z agenda, and I feel strongly that it should stay there. Or I have a teacher who feels strongly that she should have it in her classroom or his classroom. So that's a different conversation. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other hands raised on the panelists. I know on the attendees, I do see a member of the public with a hand raised, Elizabeth Capone. We're not taking public questions during the workshop, Elizabeth. So we're trying to get the board an opportunity to have this discussion ahead of our vote next week. Just wanted to be clear about that. Board, I don't see any other hands raised. Mr. Burke?
I just wanted to raise up the question in chat from Member Yongala.
I don't have my chat. I'm sorry.
My concern with the library is a lot of students at Portland Adult don't have the devices to work from home. Is there any way to make it accessible for them? Students, is this Portland Adult Education?
Yeah, I don't know, Meg, if you would, Javier, if that would be something you can speak to. I'm not sure it's related to the policy changes here.
Yeah, I don't think it's related to the policy changes. Magali, we recognize that not all of our students at Portland Adult Ed have devices, and therefore they may not be able to access materials that are in the library or the internet for that matter. So that is something that we have taken some steps to address, but that is not sort of something that has anything to do with the library policy itself.
Thank you.
Sorry. If we don't have any other questions or comments, Ms. Mariani, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I just was going to say we did have a community member that had raised their hand. I think that they were trying to get through. I don't know.
I think Chair Rodriguez mentioned.
Oh, already talked about it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that somebody saw that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think there was. I think Elizabeth, I saw a notification on my computer. I don't know if she emailed us a comment or not. So if we don't have any other questions, I think if there's any other part of the workshop left to do, we can maybe wrap it up. Perfect.
That's great. I just want to thank, I'm sorry, Chair Rodriguez, I just wanted to sort of close by thanking Meg and again, even all the other librarians. There's quite a bit of work and obviously very intentional thought put into this. And as you heard Meg describe this in particular, I was just really inspired by the way in which the team was thinking proactively about integrating our equity goal and thinking about that in this work. I think when we talk about the equity goal, we constantly say, it's not just a work of the equity director, it's everybody's work. And I think this is just a fantastic example of the team really internalizing that and asking themselves, like, where does this live in the work that we touch, and how can we be proactive in aligning our policies and practices with our stated beliefs and values. So I just wanted to celebrate that initiative and thoughtfulness. And we have a lean but fantastic librarian team. And so just wanted to just publicly thank Meg and the team for that work, but as we close out.
Thank you, Malia. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Malia, for that. And yeah, I'll second all that. Thank you, Meg, and the team of librarians. Great work. I'm sure next week or next meeting when we have it up for a vote, board members will have deeper comments to share. But again, thank you for the workshop today and the presentation. If that's all that we have, everyone have a good night, get some rest. Another early release night for us shortly after 8 o'clock, getting out of here. Okay? So thank you all. Have a great one.